I had to ask our professor here professor of the Old Testament, yonder, to help me with the pronunciation of all this, so we'll see how I do. This morning's reading is from Judges chapter 4. The Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud died. So the Lord sold them into the hand of King Jabin of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth HaGoim. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help, for he had 900 chariots of iron and had oppressed the Israelites cruelly for 20 years. At that time, Deborah, a prophetess, wife of Lapidot, was judging Israel. She used to sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites came up to her for judgment. She sent and summoned Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go take position at Mount Tabor, bringing 10,000 from the tribe of Naphtali and the tribe of Zebulun. I will draw out Sisera, the general of Jabin's army, to meet you by the Wadi Kishon with his chariots and his troops, and I will give him into your hand." Barak said to her, "If you will go with me, I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go." And she said, I will surely go with you. Nevertheless, the road on which you are going will not lead to your glory, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. Then Deborah got up and went with Barak to Kadesh. Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and 10,000 warriors went up behind him, and Deborah went up with him. Now Heber the Kenite had separated from the other Kenites, that is, the descendants of Hobab and the father-in-law of Moses, and it had encamped as far away as Elon Bezananim, which is near Kadesh. When Sisera was told that Barak, son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera called out all his chariots, 900 chariots of iron, and all the troops who were with him, from Harosheth HaGoim to the Wadi Kishon. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Up, for this is the day on which the Lord has given Sisera into your hand. The Lord is indeed going out before you." So Barak went down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 warriors following him. And the Lord threw Sisera and all his chariots and all his army into a panic before Barak. Sisera got down from his chariot and fled away on foot, while Barak pursued his chariots and the army to Harosheth HaGoim. All the army of Sisera fell by the sword. No one was left. Here ends the reading.
Sing Holy God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Have you watched the movie Groundhog Day? Who has watched the movie Groundhog Day? Ah, wonderful. So what I'm about to say today will be all too familiar. So Groundhog Day tells the story of Phil Connors, played by Bill Murray, a cynical television weatherman. Well, of course, it's cynical because it's Bill Murray. And this Phil Connors, I would say Bill Murray, covers the annual Groundhog Day event in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and he becomes trapped in this time loop, forcing him to relive February 2nd, for a number of times. I can't imagine how that would be for me, waking up every morning and it would be the same day. It sounds like hell to me, especially when it's Groundhog Day and you're somewhere trapped in the middle of Pennsylvania. No offense. And I was thinking about the Groundhog Day, and then I was thinking about, like, is that like a déjà vu? Oh no, a déjà vu is something different, right? People don't really know how this phenomenon comes to be, but what happens is that at a déjà vu, our brain kind of manufactures a memory for us that actually never happened. But we witness something, and then we're all of a sudden thinking, like, oh my God, I think I've experienced this before. But we haven't. So déjà vus are usually fictitious. Groundhog Day was not fictitious. Or maybe it is, because it's a movie. But a déjà, and I was thinking again about déjà vu and Groundhog Day, and then I thought about the déjà vu that such a moment only needs, there appears only to have happened before, but it really didn't happen. But there are moments that really did happen before, right? So many of them are real memories, right? And some of them are really happy memories that reoccur. I'm like, oh, I just have this nice memory. And some of them are really annoying. So if we receive flowers, for example, from our partner one day, and all of a sudden the next day, the partner comes again with flowers, it's not a déjà vu, right? You're just like, oh, is this a déjà vu? Did it happen before? Yes, it did happen before. It's a nice, happy reiteration, though, of something that had happened. The second flood that we had here in August at Elliott Church was not a déjà vu. It was just a very sad reoccurrence that we had really hoped to avoid. But it happened. Worst of all occurrences are those in which we are mistakes, and we make the same mistake again. Last week, for instance, we had to figure out how to print folded bulletins without staples. Believe me, Diana and I think we went through a Groundhog Day, not a déjà vu. It was definitely Groundhog Day. No matter what we had changed in our settings, the bulletin came out completely crooked. No matter what we did. And we could not figure out how to reset it. It took us hours to figure it out. The bulletin, whatever we did, the bulletin came out the same way. And I'm like, I'm in Groundhog Day. This is insane. I have to laugh because we listened to this passage now, and there were all these names. I'm so sorry, Robert. For some reason, when I looked at the passage, it didn't really occur to me how many different names there are. But apparently, all those names are really torture. Groundhog Day for you. Sorry. I assure you, in the passage that we have read, Israel experiences a Groundhog Day. Yes, it's Groundhog Day for Israel. Again, after 40 years of wilderness and revelation of God's commandments, Israel finally arrived in the promised land and tried to settle. Alas, they had to conquer indigenous tribes that settled in that land. And in any case, the fortunes are not well with Israel. Indeed, they failed to adhere to the ritual commandments God gave them. They did evil in the eyes of the Lord, meaning they didn't worship God. This is an oversimplification, but let's just stick with that. The book of Judges displays God's punishment in ways one thought God punished people 3,000 years ago, with enemies that win. Now, God institutes a variety of people who then govern over Israel or judge over Israel to fix the issues and to save Israel from its oppressors. So those governors or judges come help Israel, and then Israel makes the same mistake again and does not worship God properly, and God punishes them and sends a new judge. Groundhog Day for Israel. Now imagine yourself to be in that position of Israel. It happens, you put a new person in, great, wonderful, and the same mistake happens again. Boof. After some attempts and faith in the judges, Israel was insecure and anxious. There was little faith in their own handling of things. I am sure many of you have felt like you were in a Groundhog Day situation before. Did anyone have that kind of situation before? Yes. Okay, wonderful. Yes, yes, yes. The others not so much? Yes? Yeah? Groundhog Day? Groundhog Day situations? Yeah. Now, I think you have experienced it. As a community, you might feel that way as well, right? We called a pastor who 4 years later went into retirement. We then hired an interim whose tenure was much longer than expected. And then we call a new pastor who then leaves a year and a half later, just to find yourselves in the same situation again. Who has experienced Groundhog Day before? Friends, I want to thank the many of you who have reached out to me to express your happiness for me and your affirmation that where I will go next year is a wonderful and unique opportunity. As much as I heard the many of you express your happiness and your support, I also heard the voices of exhaustion. And I can imagine the groundhog feeling you have. Some of you may feel resentment, disappointment. Some of you may feel the urge to repair and fix the issue of uncertainty quickly. Maybe some of you have lost a little bit of faith in Elliott Church, the good Elliott Church. In Israel, there was little faith in their own handling of things. Luckily, there was another judge sent by God. Deborah. And now I forgot this thing because I was so carried around. But I have an image of Deborah. You have it in your bulletin as well. Deborah, the faithful leader, the inspirational figure. The Song of Deborah is one of the oldest items that we have in the New Testament. And that inspirational figure needed to ensure the growth of the community. Now Deborah, the person appointed to rule and discern for the community, the prophetess, sought to fight against those who did not inherit the land. She had a vision. She requested to see the leader of the army, Barak, to gather his army to fight the Canaanites. Barak approached her anxiously, saying, "Will you come with me? I don't want to go without you." Surprised by that request, Deborah agreed. Ultimately, Israel won the battle. And then, after a couple of years, and Deborah died, Israel did again not according to God's will, and a new Groundhog Day begins. Next judge. In scholarship, we call it the judge's circle. The story of Deborah is a story of faith inasmuch as it is a story of doubt. As much as I wish to tell you that Deborah was the solution to to Israel's problems, she was not. Deborah was part of a cycle that tried to reassure Israel in its confidence and inner strength. Israel needed to have faith in God and in itself, though, to thrive and survive. For as long as the community just trusted in the judge, everything went well. Barak did not want to go and fight just by himself. No. He needed Deborah to be there. He begged Deborah to come fight on his side. He put his faith into the hands of Deborah, and he did so knowing that Deborah was appointed by God. Likewise, as soon as Deborah passed away about 40 years later, the story tells Israel fell back into the patterns of unfaithfulness. Friends, we need to put our faith in ourselves and God. Deborah's story is a two-edged sword, because on the one hand, she was appointed to lead Israel, and she did, as all judges did. For as long as Israel had faith in the government, everything went well. On the other hand, as soon as someone leaves, Israel becomes insecure and falls into the pattern God asks them not to fall into. Similarly, Deborah did tell Barak what to do but he did not have enough faith to carry it out by himself, whether he trusted Deborah or not. It almost seems like he really wasn't sure. Friends, this story means a successful life in God, means to have faith in oneself, in the other, and in God. We may find ourselves in a Groundhog Day situation. However, what breaks the cycle is to change the pattern in which we operate as a community. We need to have faith in the people we appoint, in the systems we created, and in ourselves, that we have everything we need to address these challenges. We do. Elliott Church does. How much has our governmental system eroded because we scrutinize the judiciary or the election system, because we didn't have faith in them? How much do we as a community at Elliott Church feel the urge to find quick solutions? Or the one who fixes everything? These questions lead me to think how we can express our faith and trust in each other and in God. God blessed us with so many good people around us, whether in our administration, whether in our staff, whether it's the officers we elected. Let us give thanks to that. Put our faith into them and into God, that God will guide us no matter where we are, at what point we are in our lives. And let us rejoice in the fact that wherever we go, God's Spirit is right among us and gives us the strength that we need. Amen.